watching the Isaiah Factor Uncensored.
And welcome back to the second half hour of The Factor Uncensored. Thank you for hanging in there with us. Now, older workers are hanging around the office longer instead of retiring. And a report says it's signaling bad news for young professionals. So let's talk about it tonight. And joining us on The Factor Uncensored today, we have with us career strategist Julia Balke, and she is here to talk about older people, older workers, staying in the workplace much longer and what gridlock it may cause for young people trying to go up that corporate ladder or get to the next position in their job. So first of all, Julie, let's just establish why more older people are staying in the workforce longer.
There's a lot of reasons. And one of them that is really glaringly obvious is they need to keep working. They don't have the money to retire. So we've got a situation now where 33% of people surveyed said that they wanted to work until they're 70, or they would have to work until they're 70. That number's up by 5 percentage points in the last couple of years. So there's a lot of need, cost of living, maybe investments haven't turned out like they wanted them to. So there's need, and that's a big driving piece of it from the employee side of the desk.
Now, have we seen in recent times there being a major impact because of inflation, the price of food going up, and as a result, it's taken a toll on that savings, or the pandemic?
Yes. What was so interesting about the pandemic was generally it's tracked. People's exit from the market, in other words, retirement, is tracked. It's a fairly predictable percentage every year. What happened when companies started to say, okay, fun's over, come back to the office, boomers retired, that pace picked up. Because we had older people saying, this has been okay. I don't know that I want to stay at work. And so we had this exodus from the market post-COVID of boomers, that a lot of those boomers, they then went and took other jobs. Maybe they went to work differently. What they didn't do was go back to corporate America. So there's really been a change. When you look at the change in attitude toward work that we look at and associate with the younger demographics, a lot of boomers said, yeah, wait a minute, I can work. I don't have to be chained to my desk 8 to 5 anymore. The world has changed. But then you've got the company side where they're saying, well, wait a minute, we understand boomers. They come, they stay, they don't complain, they get their work done. Please don't retire. So
Exactly.
There's this desire, on the part of companies to keep their boomers, because there's wisdom, there's institutional knowledge, and there's mentorship that they can provide to the younger people who are getting a little antsy that boomers won't get the heck out of their way.
Right. And we'll get to that in just a second, but let's look at it from the business perspective. When you're looking at a higher, I guess maybe possibly higher costs for the company, if your insurance, if you're providing insurance for many of these older workers who may get sick more often, what are your thoughts on that? Is that even into consideration?
Yeah, it for sure, it is. And so when companies look at what kind of workforce do we need moving forward, let's say they're looking at a layoff. They will look at, frankly, things like, am I getting the value out of these people who are our highest paid employees? If they make $80,000 to $100,000 a year, am I getting that value? Or have their salaries gone up, just continued steadily up, but are now we're now paying for more than we're getting. So that happens too. And so it's this analysis that has to happen with companies as they say, look, we're paying these people this amount, but we're also paying, maybe they're getting paid for more time off. Maybe their benefits are, their benefit cost is higher. And they have to look at that and say, are we getting in return, are we getting the value for what we're paying? And that's why I tell older people, it is up to you to always make sure that you are not retired in place. that you are still adding value every day when you show up, and you're not seen as coasting to retirement. Because if that happens, you will end up on the layoff list.
Absolutely. Now let's get to these young people who say, get these old people out of my way. I can't get a promotion. I can't get that position because they've been there forever.
Yeah, I got that once from somebody on Instagram, oh, go retire, boomer, get out of our way. It's like, right, you think you do my job? I don't think so. So like, sit down. There's I think there is that fear that because what we're seeing on the other end is that what I hear from companies is when they are talking to their young people, the young people are so impatient when it comes to getting a promotion, getting more responsibility. Every 6 months, every year, they're ready to keep moving. And many times they're not ready, but they think they are. And so they look at, well, there's no place for me to go. I would be getting promoted if these people weren't in my way.
Right.
The truth is, a lot of your younger people, they might be really smart technology-wise, they might be really creative, they might be all these things, but there is something to be said for developing relationships, building wisdom, understanding the institution and the customers. And I think sometimes when you're younger, you don't have the experience and the life perspective yet to truly value those sort of things, which really are the intangibles. And so, yeah, they're anxious, but I think it's a little bit of misplaced impatience.
Stay with us. We will finish this conversation after the break. And welcome back to The Factor Uncensored. We continue our conversation about older people refusing to retire and younger workers ready for them to go.
And I recently interviewed a human resources specialist, and she said many of the young people in the work market or the workforce now lack the soft skills in order to survive or to make them valuable at work. And that's what you were just hinting at when, they lack the ability to get along with the customers and get along with coworkers because they want everything now and everyone is in their way.
Yeah, I mean, I would say probably when you and I were 22 to 24 or 25, we were not fully baked either in terms of being able to handle ourselves in those difficult situations. But what they're dealing with on top of that is what they went through in COVID. So they were really robbed of the ability to sit in a conference room, see how people behave, see what works, see what doesn't work, see what they wear, see how the fact they aren't on their phone the whole time, the fact that, so a lot of the soft skills that we picked up through osmosis by observing people around us. And they didn't get that because even a lot of these younger people, their internships were even remote.
Mm-hmm.
How are you supposed to pick that up? And so there is immaturity there. That's not all their fault. But part of it is you're just young at 22, 23, 24. Even if you think you're the king or queen of the world and you know more than all these people, after a while, when you look back, you realize, yeah, I really didn't. So there's a little bit of that in there too that we have to give them patience on. So some of this is just normal stuff that happens with every generation, and some of this is just Gen Z is very impatient. They want to make their mark. They want to get promoted. They want to take more on, which is admirable. But when it's not buffeted or surrounded by the professional maturity, the soft skills, the wisdom, then you could trip over your own feet. And the company sometimes will bear the consequences of that.
Absolutely. And Julie, now that we're at this impasse where we have the older worker working longer and the younger worker frustrated without having the ability to move up in the company, how do we address that? Is that addressable?
Yeah, it is. I think that I'm a big fan of intergenerational relationships at work and actually intergenerational friendships myself, because I think we can all learn from each other regardless of how much experience we have. So what I tell companies who are trying to figure this out is, what can you do to match up or pair up, put groups of like teams together, maybe responsible for certain projects or a community thing, or you bring people together of all generations. And so you naturally create a situation where older people are mentoring the younger people and they do start to see value. But truly, Isaiah, this is a problem that will solve itself because everybody does have to retire eventually.
Yes.
You get sick and we pass away. I mean, it happens. And so this is something that I believe this is the first year, I hope I'm getting this is the first year where there are more Gen Z in the market than there are boomers. So every day it moves. And so, I think that organizations need to really see what I can do to help people grow, where the younger people grow where they are, so they don't feel like it always has to be a climb. What can you do to grow where you are? How can you build relationships? How can we help you soak in the kind of things that you haven't had the chance to get yet? The first thing is acknowledging it's a problem, and then also maybe bring in some of your boomers who are maybe within a year or two of retirement and ask for their input. Ask how they'd like to get involved in helping the younger people move in the organization, and then start forcing those groups together to learn from each other, because we all have something to give.
And Julie, of course, there are many companies out there will offer incentives for people to retire or retire early. And so that would open up the market as well. But the companies just have to be creative. Julie Balke, who is a career strategist, thank you for joining us here on The Factor Uncensored. And for those who would like to find out more about you, where can they find you?
Our website is thebaukegroup.com, and it's BAUKE. Of course, I'm on LinkedIn and on Instagram and TikTok. My handle is Julie on the Job.
All right. Thank you, Julie, for joining us on The Factor Uncensored.